All right, let's see what's good. Yeah, interesting username, right? Tomorrow's launches are 18 minutes apart now from each other. Nice. I'm a defense analyst. Oh, Def, you are. My certification is that I made it up. Oh, nice. You got me.
Might help us, actually.
It's interesting because if the ship was stacked on top of the booster, you wouldn't expect that they would have lines connected there. So I wonder, is this just for suborbital pad testing? Is it going to be some different solution whenever it's on the orbital launch mount on top of a booster? I wonder how that is. It seems like they're sort of testing it in a way that doesn't match
Cammy.
the way it would need to operate on top of the booster, right?
Oh, there's a whole history behind this engine chill vent in relation to this topic. And it starts with the fact that the first engine chill vent was actually below the ship in the very early prototypes, like coming exactly, you know. And they then put it to the outside because, of course, they had to at some point, because they cannot just vent into the interstage, because in flights this ship will stand on a booster while performing this engine chill, and so you have to get this cryogenic fluid out to somehow. So they put it to the outside.
What the heck is
I'm
that,
not
Joe?
sure what this evolution now is in this, and if they.
So, hang on. Okay, so first of all, the white shirt is blowing out the camera, guys. I gotta change my shirt. I thought a white shirt would be okay with this lighting setup, but it's blowing out the camera. I don't like that. So, I'm gonna go change my shirt real quick. And as much as I love the Top Gun shirt, yeah, I don't like it. I keep looking over there. I'm like, what the heck's so bright? Oh, it's my shirt. Okay. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go grab another shirt real quick, and then we'll discuss those lines in a second. I'm gonna put NSF on here real quick.
That is. I wonder if there's, I don't know, like would there be something they could go up there in a lift and plug in that actually comes down onto the QD arm, and then it blows off, or I guess quickly disconnects if the ship needs to take off. I really wonder what that's going to look like when we see it happening on the OLM, OLT booster, whatever.
The question is also, will they disconnect today? That's also an interesting side note. Will they test a disconnect function for these in today's test?
If they fly off at T-minus 10 seconds or something like that, that would be really interesting to see.
Oh, that would be so funny, like these small lines being like thump.
Boom. They should make that noise.
Yep, I like that. I would like that, like opening a bottle.
Like a cork popping off of the ship before it goes. Nice. All right, so we're going to continue watching what's going on here. Let me say thanks to some super chats real quick. We are able to do what we do because, I mean, for some reason, y'all keep showing up watching our streams. We surely appreciate that. But the super chats help us pay the bills as well. Hagen Gerlach, I think, joined the membership program. Thank you for joining the membership as a pad rat there, Hagen. We appreciate you. Ralph Chilton says, good day, Space Nerds. I feel like we need Chris Bergen on here to say good day, Space Nerds. But he's not on right now. Ralph, we appreciate the support there. Thank you so much for the $5 super chat. Moldy Space Industries, taking advantage of the gifting membership program with 5 Red Team memberships. If you are somebody who can support other people, afford to, you can actually gift memberships to other people. You can click on the little membership tab thing under the chat, and there's an option there if you're already a member to gift others with the same sort of thing. So Multispace, we see your name in chat all the time. Thank you so much for supporting not only us, but giving some other people some access to that behind-the-scenes member stuff you get with YouTube membership. Danny Lattishoe, that was another gifted membership as well, it says. Thanks, Danny. Appreciate you. Matthew Dahl says, I was hoping for an orbital launch all year on my birthday, but I'll take a spicy S-24 static fire. Thanks as always for the coverage, guys. Matthew, thank you so much for the $4.99. You're not supposed to be giving other people money on your birthday, but we appreciate the support. I guess I'm assuming that it's your birthday today. Stephen Gare, or Gare, don't know which one it was, but thanks for becoming a Red Team member. We've got Tech Controls up from Canada. The ship will thank you for that one, Tech Controls. Canadian Dollar says, hope we see a successful test today. Also, gotta say congratulations to Tim Dodd on the Dear Moon crew. Hey, Tech, what we're seeing here is critical to Tim being on the way to the moon on a Starship someday. These are the tests, and this is the progress that has to be made at Starbase so that one day Tim can be on a Starship safely on the way to the moon. Thank you so much for the support there. This name. I had to read it to make sure it was kosher, but I'd rather be flying an X-Wing. With $5 says, NASA has cameras on the launch tower behind quartz lenses to protect them. When NSF OLM tower cam? Elon, my DMs are open. If you'd like me to install one there, I would be happy to go and install whatever cameras you'd like, wherever you'd like me to put them. Falcon nests, orbital launch towers, looking up into an engine bell where the camera gets ablated as soon as it engines. I don't even care. Just let me know how I can help. I'm here. Let's see here. Stefan Baptiste. Some Euro says, shouldn't a flame diverter be under the OLM solve a lot of problems with the booster and concrete under the OLM? We've talked about that ad infinitum.
Okay, so where are the chill down vents, fellas? You were telling me, are they down here now? Like down there? You missed it? Ah, that's a shame. Don't do that, Bandit. I'm serious. Don't plug my stream on NSF. That's really messed up. Yeah, I was kidding. Yeah, and I'm kidding when I say gift subs, but they're at the bottom of the rightmost part. So down here. Is the test a go? I hear the Ligma component was being faulty. Actually, it's the Candace component, which is up there at the very, very front. At the very tip, friend. There is no Ligma component here because it's, you know, a cylindrical vehicle. You know what I'm saying? It was a low-cost concept fighter. Yeah. Yeah, friend. Absolutely. So Muffin had a 67-month resub. Hi, Muffin. How are you? But don't worry about it, Flankin. So they were wondering why they moved the vent lines. So, Thomas, you're saying they moved the vent lines from right here down to right there, right? Is that what we're getting at? It's basically right here. It's not up there anymore. Vent. Okay, cool. Let me take a look. Oh.
Discovery, go at throttle up.
Hey, Gold Falcon, 30-month resub. Oh, also, if you want scale, look at the ladder right there. Look at the ladder in the staircase. Scary case. It's not Halloween. No, they haven't fired it up. Have they upgraded the pad concrete to reduce debris or damage? No, Pink. I don't think so. I'm good, Gold. Yeah, everything's good. So they made it into a ground side system. Yeah, the side fumbling would effectively be prevented. Yep. That means nothing. Anyway, so I look at that and I say, why? You don't say why did they do that? That's weird. Okay, what are they trying to do here? What benefits? It's just like looking at the Eurofighter and the A-10, like what I was talking about. What are the benefits of doing this? And this is how I look at things. I don't wait for somebody from SpaceX to tell me what's going on. I try to reasonably extrapolate what the heck that is and why it exists. I don't ask why it was made. I ask why does it exist. So what are you trying to do? What are they trying to do here? Torn up, replaced the concrete at least 3 times now. So? The only thing I can think of is trying to divert the vent away from the ship. So, why would we have liquid oxygen? So it seems like they plugged in the vent line right here, and it went down here, and it goes all the way over here, and then it goes down off of the side. So they moved the GOX vent for the engine bleed. Why would you do that? Shout out to EJ. Wait, what? Thanks, man. And thank you for the tip earlier, guys. You're really taking care of me. That's really helping me out. My energy bill heating the garage was not. I look at it and went, oh no! Oh! That really helps me out, dudes. Thank you. There was a second line of text. Did it get cut off? Happy holidays to you, Brimo, and your metaphorically adopted child. Chat. Here's to a good 2023. Thanks, man. I will drink my Faygo grape to that. Moving the vent more for the full stack placement, less than the test stand. Okay. I could show personal experience why they would want to move it. Well, that's what I mean. You need to come up with something that's concrete enough. You don't just say, oh, they moved it over here because they're worried about gaseous oxygen. Okay, why are they worried about gaseous oxygen? What's the benefit venting over here as opposed to venting right here? If you guys honestly want to know my guess is not what you think. What are you using to heat the garage? A space heater and an oil heater, Van. Little space heater and a little oil heater. It's not the best, but it'll work for now. I ran out of time and I ran out of money to buy something more significant. I want a heat pump. A heat pump will do the job, probably cheaper than both of those things. I'm using energy. Another ICP man of culture, I see. Whoop, whoop. They are worried about oxidization. Guys, if you really want to know my honest opinion, I think this is so they can get a good shot of the engines firing. How would the heat pump work? It pumps heat. Where does the heat come from? It pulls heat out of the atmosphere, Shaw. Remember, heat is quantitative, okay? So it has a heat exchanger outside, and then you have the pump in. And the cool thing about a heat pump is that it works both ways. You can either pump heat. There's 2 heat exchangers. One is inside and one is outside, okay? And then there's a fan going over it, and it moves heat between those. So you can either get it to take heat out, grab heat from outside, or you can use it to grab heat from inside and move it out. It goes both ways with a heat pump, which is why they're cool. So, what does it do? It pulls the heat out of the air. You can pull heat out of air. That's fine. There is heat in the ambient air even when it's cold out. There's just not a lot, and it's going to take a second to build up the heat and push it through. But it's a 0-point heater. Yep. Mm-hmm. It's it could literally run the air conditioner backwards. Solar panels when? Ran out of time, Tarada. Anything above 0 degrees Kelvin contains energy. That's just a question about the medium. Bingo. You can pull heat from cold air. Even though it's like 0 centigrade, you could still, or 0 Celsius, you could still pull heat from that. There's still a lot of heat in that air. It's not a lot of heat to us, but if you take it, you pull it in, and then you build it up, and then you throw it through a heat exchanger into the house, you're gonna get a lot of heat. Should look into a propane heater, boy. They're pretty cheap and they put out tons of heat. Oh, I tell you what, boy, that's probably the best idea. Yeah, Van, I just ran out of time and this solution works good enough for now. It's not really a question of application at this point. You want solar panels, you want propane heater, you want kerosene heater, you want whatever. Dude, I can't spend any money. I really can't. You guys, don't get me wrong, you guys are helping me out, but yeah. Do you know why SpaceX hasn't built a flame trench yet? Seems weird having to refurbish the concrete after every static fire. Rapid Fred, when you come up with a solution for a flame diverter that can literally withstand a direct hit nuclear blast in terms of pressure, yeah, then you get back to me on that one. I'm sure SpaceX would hire you instantly. And Fred, I don't mean to be a jerk. I'm not saying you have the solution. I think that is the problem. I think they said build the ship first and we'll figure out the pad later. How the heck do you even build something that's designed to withstand 72 meganewtons of force? How do you that's nuclear blast powerful, like more than a nuclear blast. Whatever they put underneath that flame trench is they're going to lose. You know how I know? They're putting nothing under the flame trench and literally losing it. There's just a concrete slab down there and it's getting destroyed every time they shoot, right? Every time they shoot the engines off. Hey, Factor. Good morning. So what time are they firing this bad boy? Friend, I'm actually not sure. We don't have full timing for the tests, but the condenser is on. So what does that mean? The condenser being on means that they're starting to move fuel around inside of these tanks. These tanks contain fuel and oxidizer. I don't know which one is which. Hey, Vickers, thank you. Thoughts on a garage false ceiling tarp? The garage is insulated already.
Discovery, go at throttle up.
Thanks for the 5 subs, Vic. I appreciate it. So, but Chad does have the point. If they get to the point where we have to do refueling missions in quick succession, replacing the concrete between refueling flights isn't an option. I'm not saying that it is, Blue. Sorry, Vic, I lost my train of thought. You didn't... Hear me out. I think they know that, guys. So, okay, for the suborbital testing pads, for these things, why? Don't even bother. Replacing the concrete is literally the cheapest solution. Now, for a Starship pad, that's a little bit different. Yep. We're starting to see the propellant's on. They're starting to move commodities around. You can see the frosting going on there. You got to bring everything down to temp, but... Dang, man, you know what you're talking about. Who do you work for? I self-taught. God, Mavis. Self-taught. Just a big nerd. I really like looking into... I really like figuring out the analytical things behind rockets. So, and I just kind of sit there and I use reasonable logic extrapolation to figure out what people are doing. That and, yeah, I am just a big nerd. That's really what it is. EJ, an actual diverter instead of flat ground would help a lot. Yeah, but, okay. You're not wrong, Mutter. Abso-freaking-lutely. But you guys got to think about it like this. Okay, so, all right, hear me out. Listen, let me finish this thought before we move on to the next thing. So, Blue, listen to this. You know, Chad asked about why haven't they put a diverter down there? They'd have to replace the concrete every single time. You're right. Absolutely. And I said, well, when you come up with something that withstands 72 meganewtons of force, you get back to me. The reason why I said I didn't finish that thought is because you get back to me when you figure out something that withstands 72 meganewtons of force every day. I should have said that. Sorry, the sub notification popped up. And Vickers, this isn't your fault at all. It's me for not having my craft together. It's been a weird day. So think about this for a second, all right? This is what I mean about using logic extrapolation. Okay, there is no way in hell SpaceX does not see the need. Anyone at SpaceX. No one at SpaceX. You're telling me no one at SpaceX sees the need for a flame trench? I highly doubt that. Especially since, you know, they have another rocket that they launch a lot that has a flame trench. That I'm pretty sure they understand that they need one, right? So, okay. Why haven't they made one yet? Well, I think first and foremost, SpaceX is focusing on development of the vehicle, right? They're focusing on development of the vehicle. Now, if that means just replacing the concrete every time, guess what? That means that way you can sink all your development into getting Starship working. Because who cares if you make a flame trench that can withstand 72 meganewtons of thrust? Who gives a frick? If the thing doesn't work, then that's a waste of time, right? Remember, it's SpaceX. It's not NASA. Vehicle first, everything else later. And don't get me wrong, NASA does the same thing too, but NASA would be doing parallel analytical calculations, right? So they would develop the flame trench at the same time as the rocket, which is what everybody's kind of used to. But you got to remember, a rocket like Starship no one's ever tried to do something like this before. Now, what do I mean by that? 1, no one's ever made a stage that powerful. 2, no one's ever made a fully reusable launch pad. And 3, no one's ever tried to catch said vehicle with launch pad. Those are 3 huge stakeholder expectations right there that would constitute a completely different design. Okay, guys, so let's put a flame trench down there. Say they put a nice flame diverter down there and say they, throw enough water at it like the ones at Stennis and it's not a big deal. Guess what? No one's ever built a flame diverter like that to withstand that amount of pressure. The amount, once again, low yield nuclear blast. Whatever they put down there is going to literally needs to survive a direct hit with a nuke. Like a direct hit from a Fat Man nuclear blast. Like, direct hit. There's not many things that can do that. So, what's the solution then? Solution right now is to just repave the damn concrete. Because even if you did put a flame diverter down there right now, it's not something that's going to be reusable every day. Remember, if stage 0, the pad is part of the vehicle, guys. The vehicle cannot function. It cannot be reused without the pad. That's very important to understand, and that's what I mean about stakeholder expectations. It's very important that the pad has to work as well and as reliably as the vehicle. So you're going to design the vehicle first because that's harder to design, and then design the pad second based off of what you know from the vehicle, right? When they built the space shuttle, they engineered the space shuttle first and then figured out how long of a runway the space shuttle would need to land. Turns out the space shuttle needs a 15,000 foot runway, so they had to build a 15,000 foot runway at KSC, right? Based off of the tests that they learned from approach and landing, etc., etc. You need a really long freaking runway. So that was their reusable solution, just make a longer runway, because that's pretty easy to do, right? You don't want to go redesigning better brakes for your space shuttle because then the space shuttle gets heavier. That's extra dry mass that you have to move up into space. You got to look at this like, look, that flame trench, even if you just put a regular flame trench down there, 1 or 2 Starship firings will literally destroy it. It'll help, and you wouldn't have to replace the concrete below it, but now you have to replace your flame diverter. Could that be the reasoning behind the oil rigs? It's possible. What's the deal with the actual pad, though? It seems odd that they would build the launch tower without an actual trench or plan to deal with it. Ben, I don't think they have a solution for it right now. Guys, even 39A, taking a direct blast from the Saturn V, had to be refurbished. How do I know that? How do I know? Where's the proof? Well, if we go and look at pictures of Pad 39A from the Apollo program, there's a really, really, really interesting thing to look at right off the bat. Let's take a look. Let's take a look at this picture. So see the flame diverter? There's a diverter down there. And see how that one is destroyed? And see how that one over there is in good condition? And see how they built a rail system to be able to quick change out their flame diverters between missions so they could be refurbished? See what I'm talking about? That thing had trouble taking the blast with a sound suppressor and a pad deluge. That had problems taking the blast from a 35 meganewton thrust rocket at liftoff. SpaceX has double that. They're probably trying to figure out a solution first. They're probably trying to figure out a solution. Guys, a diverter is not going to do it. It's not going to do it. I'm sorry. Like, that's the truth. This is the truth of the matter. It'll blast right through a flame diverter. And do you want to waste time and money? Does it sound like, wasting time and money for an interchangeable flame diverter? Do you think that jives very well with SpaceX's best part is no part? Nope. The space shuttle destroyed the pad, Joe. It destroyed the diverters like almost every other launch. Yeah, the pad needed to be completely refurbished, but they quick changed the diverters. That's the real truth, See what I'm saying? So I think SpaceX built that pad at Boca Chica I think SpaceX built... How about a really, really, really deep hole? Can't dig a deep hole in Texas, Galactic. You have to do the same solution that they did in Florida. You can't dig a deep hole. It'll just fill with water. So build up a hill and then dig a deep hole. Do they want to do that? Can they do that everywhere? And even then, that's not a tenable solution for wanting to fly every day. You need something you need something that's going to be in line with the maintenance cost of a runway. In fact, I bet you that's what SpaceX is using for their maintenance projections for how durable they want a pad to be. So why didn't they make the OLM taller? The design was changing all the time, Odie. Look at Starship from 2020 versus Starship from now. Two way different things. Am I right? I think they built it tall enough to for what they thought, and then it wasn't tall enough, so they said screw it. In fact, if you look at the if you look at Boca Chica Pad 1, it has an extension on it showing that they didn't get it right the first time and they had to put an extension on it, lift it higher up off the pad. And even then, I still don't think that's high enough. I wonder if launching it from overseas is a possibility. Enter the oil rigs, fellas. The oil rigs, I think, are... your problem is solved if you have an oil rig that's floating a couple 100 feet above the water. The deck of an oil rig is floating a little ways above the water. That problem gets solved because you're just shooting it down at the water. Who cares if the water splashes around a little bit? It's not gonna harm the rig. So now you need a land solution. I don't think that land solution has been thought of yet. I think SpaceX is focusing on the vehicle design. Because, guys, there's no reasonable way that SpaceX obviously knows that they need a flame trench. They'd be stupid to not realize that. There's no way that they haven't realized that that's what they need. There's not a chance of that happening. I guarantee it. I know people that work at SpaceX. They are, in fact, not stupid. And there's no way they don't know it. So that tells me two things right off the bat. One, they don't have a solution. Two, replacing the concrete is literally less expensive than trying to find that solution right now. That's it. That's it, dudes. So, yeah, I see this posted around on Twitter. I see this posted by people, oh, well, why don't they just do something like this? So this picture was done by WAI, so Stanley Creative. You see that right there? That would literally be gone if you tried to fire a Super Heavy underneath it. There would be nothing left. You'd have to replace this and the concrete underneath it. I don't think people understand how much power we're talking about here. What if Slick 6 was converted for Starship? Slick 6. No, you'd blow a big hole in the ground. What about a bottomless pit? Oh, yes, that would work. No flame trench on the moon or Mars. They might be trying to find another solution. But Super Heavy doesn't take off from the moon or Mars, silly. Oh, Das is doing some telestrator stuff.
Thank you. Goes out right there. So now when the engine chill, we see it sort of issue forth from down here instead of up there right off the side of the ship.
So would the sound destroy it off of the hill at Slick 6? I don't know, Joe. What I do know is that the Air Force wouldn't sit there and engineer an entire launch pad worrying about the sound reverberating off the hills. I'm pretty sure. You're not live. Oh, okay. Here, let me get live. What happened to your telestrator? I have it. I found it after moving. Okay.
Indicators that we could see when we thought we were getting really close. I wonder if
fast forward. Prepare to fast forward. Preparing to fast forward. Fast forwarding, sir.
Installed.
Yeah, Alex, correct me if I'm wrong. The last
Hey, a bit unrelated, but unrelated question from you, Squish. Come on now. That never happens. I just thought of today when reading about NASA's stock of Orion capsules. Do you think each Orion will get their own name, like the CSMs? Yes, most likely. Is it really the equivalent of a small nuclear blast going off? Oh, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, friend. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. So, fun fact here. It's not really the pressure. I mean, it's not really the temperature that's the problem. The temperature is an issue when you're diverting the flames, because so you don't melt the flame diverter. You can easily fix that with literally dumping a bunch of water on the pad. It's the pressure. The pressure from firing off 33 Raptor engines all at once. That inside of a flame trench creates what's called a overpressure event. I know, very, very, very creative names. When you fire off all those rocket engines all at once, it temporarily creates a very high pressure environment inside of the flame trench. That high pressure wave that goes through the flame trench and comes out. I mean, you see it. You saw it when SLS launched, right? You see that big pressure wave that came out the back of SLS when they fired it? The SLS is half the thrust. That pressure wave that happens when you fire all the engines. That is the equivalent to a pressure wave that you'd get from a nuclear blast. And that's like on the shuttle. Like that's with the shuttle. Starship is double that. The super heavy firing is double the thrust of SLS. Double. See what I'm talking about here? A regular flame trench is not going to, it'll blow right through it. Just like a high yield nuke will just blow right through anything. It's going to go right through it. What if the solution is not the launch pad, but decreasing the pressure? So, Thimical, interesting question, but I don't mean to answer a question with a question, but I don't think that's the right question to ask, and here's why. I don't think it's the right question to ask because they wouldn't engineer engines to deliver that much pressure into the flame trench and then figure out a way to not have the engines deliver that much pressure into the flame trench. That doesn't seem smart. That's like, hey, I gotta change the rear tire on my car, so I'm going to change the front tire on my car so I can take it off, put it back on, and then change the rear tire. That's a superfluous step. You see what I mean? How much of the rocket is made out of 304? Anything that's shiny. Basically, all of it. So the best way to decrease the pressure, Thimical, would be to have nothing underneath it and have the rocket high enough off the ground so the overpressure wave that comes out just goes out in all directions. If you hold a rocket at high enough up off the pad, it's fine. You don't need to worry about it. Yeah, here I'll show you guys the pressure wave that I'm talking about. If you haven't seen this, stand by for boosted edition. All right, so watch. You can't really see it from this angle. Hold on. All right. So this is when the 4 RS-25s are turning on. Watch right here. Okay? Watch right here. Boom! Did you see it? You could the atmospheric conditions were right, so you could see the overpressure event. It's a big blast that goes out of the flame trench. That's right, Sirius. See that big blast? That's the problem. That is a big problem. I guarantee you that flame trench, that flame diverter, got pretty wrecked from that. Guys, the blast was literally enough to blow the elevator doors off of the mobile launcher. Think about how much force you need to rip an elevator door off the launcher and shoot it 100 meters back into the BDA, blast detonation area. Elevator doors are not light. They are very heavy, and it threw one 100 meters. It threw it 330 feet away from the pad. I mean, even then, look at the pressure waves radiating out of the flame trench. See that? See, it looks like the flame has a strobe light in it right there. See what I'm talking about? SLS is double, or Starship is double of SLS. See that pressure wave? The atmosphere, like I said, the atmospheric conditions are right so you could see it. Look at that pressure wave. What that is literally doing is it's moving so much air so fast, it's creating high pressure. And that high pressure in this particular scenario is enough to phase change the moisture in the air. Literally, the pressure wave was so much that the moisture in the air is condensing and turning to water. That's what that haze is. That's a lot of power. And Starship's double that, dude. Think about it. It's crazy, right? That's why I think they don't have a flame trench, because I don't think anyone has ever tried even remotely to contain that much pressure. Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's right. The carburetor backfire, Prey. Yeah, biggest carburetor backfire in history. Prey, when a carburetor in a car backfires due to faulty ignition timing, you get detonation, and the detonation goes backwards through the venturi on the carburetor. Yeah. Literally a carburetor backfire. Credit to Cosmo's perspective. Got the video like this to counter the Twitter awful. This is with 11 engines. Oh, yeah. Nice. Do you even phase change, though?
You know, suddenly you go back and it's like, oh, it was there, right? It's like,
Yeah.
oh, it was there all along. I just didn't see it.
Does it become a Venturi?
It's a double check.
Sure.
Yeah, I feel like, Alex, we should, in the NSF Discord at some point, just sit together in a voice channel and look at footage.
So, we haven't really talked about why did they move the gaseous oxygen pipes? Guys, if I had to guess, that looks like a very temporary solution. If I'm going to throw my hat into the ring and figure out why they moved the vent lines down to the bottom, I'm guessing it's so they could get better images of the engines firing. That seems like a very, very, very temporary solution. Because literally, if it looks like a hose that's just like literally took a garden hose and they attached it to the side of the vehicle on both sides. Oh, wings moving. And then just connected it to a pipe to go down here. If it looks like a garden hose and smells like a garden hose, it's a garden hose. No, it's probably a temporary solution. That does not look like something that you'd see on the finalized vehicle. So you're looking for Kistler stuff and found again where they wanted to put a pad in the US. You tickled it. Yeah. Header tank vents are on. Where is this, Thomas? Oh, I copied the US part. Kistler wanted to put a pad in the Yucca Flats. They wanted to build a launch pad in the Nevada test site. I mean, I guess that makes sense. Yeah, see all these craters right here? Those aren't craters from meteors. The Yucca Flats was the U.S.'s nuclear testing ground for a very long time. Yeah. Desert launch pad. Yeah, the Yucca Flats are right next to another place. I don't know what they do there. Might be aliens or something. Are those craters from underground tests? No. Some of them are. The biggest crater in the Yucca Flats, the furthest one north, Jonas, is for underground tests. They build it as an underground test for like mining with nuclear materials. Most likely they were testing out a ground penetrating nuclear blast to be able to literally vaporize a bunker out of the ground. Yeah. You should see Dama's last. I should see Starship because it just vented, Squish. Dama, what did you say? EJ, I blew up a muffler on my Datsun because I had the ignition 180 out of order, and it was a massive fuel air bomb. My ears were detonation. Yeah. It's a little sus, Blue. Yeah, Dama, that happens.
Don't mind me. I'm just over here. I'm not talking because I'm over here making sure all the cameras are set. So I didn't disappear. I didn't start ignoring super chats or anything like that.
That's
I was
correct,
just
Black Horse.
rushing to make sure that all the cameras were set if they sound the siren.
Yeah, I'm staring at these flaps right now.
In all seriousness, why wouldn't Slick 6 work for Starship? I don't see, Nova, I don't know. I don't see why it wouldn't. With enough money, you'd be able to retool the pad. I don't think the diverter at Slick 6 is good enough. Look at how many vents there are. Yeah, interesting. There is a header
That's
tank.
a beautiful shot, by the way. I love this. With the water in front of it. That's just
It really
cool to
is.
see.
The reflecting pool in the front.
Yeah.
Like it gives it some depth, you know?
The reflecting pool.
Fran, where is
That's
that?
what I call it. The
Go
reflecting
throttle
pool.
up.
Was that not what it's called?
Is that I just it sounded like it was the only purpose was reflecting.
Yeah, it was placed there
I agree,
specifically
Rocket Guy, yeah.
for awesome sunrise reflection shots from Mary and Nick. That's why.
Well, thanks, SpaceX.
That's why the Fish and Wildlife Service have that little indention there.
That's so cool of them. They always think about everything, right?
Actually, that like 3 weeks of gale that blew in was what gave us the reflecting pool.
It's close
Sometimes
to
it's dry
Jacksonville.
right there,
Interesting.
and we had those cloudy, low-power days for almost 3 weeks straight around Thanksgiving, and that is to what we have to owe the reflections today. That still hadn't dried up.
Yeah, and reflection dirt doesn't sound as exciting if it's
Interesting,
dry, right?
Forge.
It's reflection dirt.
Yeah.
Eventually,
It
Blue,
doesn't
yeah.
reflect very well.
Yeah, it's brown.
It's just brown.
Well, yeah, we are waiting right now. We are standing by here for the next event to happen and for the next big thing to occur. Right now, it's it seems like they kind of went through some other tests, maybe with the flaps and the header tanks. Maybe they decided, okay, let's use this flow to test other things. Maybe. Oh, also, it's just on engine venting.
It's a weird spot for a pad, Thomas, but yeah.
There is an engine on the. If you look at the left camera,
Yep.
the center pillar, and to the left of that center pillar, you can sometimes see engine venting.
Oh, hey. We are getting reports from the village that the 10-minute siren has sounded. Right around 12:55 and 25 seconds, 30 seconds, depends on how quickly Nick could type. So it sounds like we are 10 minutes away from a potential static fire on Ship 24 out here at Starbase. Don't everybody get too excited all at the same time.
Sorry, I was just like that. That's the moment where I'm
Yeah.
just opening my spreadsheet and everything. So yeah, but wow, we are. That might be like 13:05-ish. Let's see. I mean, it's awfully close to top of the hour. That I'm always inclined to say. But what if it's top of the hour? Because SpaceX sometimes really like these even times. with
Yeah, but that
tests.
would make it like a 5-minute siren, like a 4.5-minute siren or something like that if they do it at the top of the hour.
Yeah, that's true. It would be weird, but it's always like top of the hour makes me suspicious.
Yeah.
Do you have a
So
spreadsheet?
next up, watch the deluge.
This is my
the
spreadsheet,
deluge
dude.
system
I don't
below
forget
the
things.
ship. That would be the big thing. That would mean that we really should stop talking.
Yeah, I know, Hal. Isn't it cool?
What's your time, Adrian? If that siren happened at 55 and 30 seconds, roughly, what's your time?
About 8 minutes.
Funny thing, the 10-minute siren average on average is 8 minutes away from setting fire.
That's
See what I mean?
So it's like 13:03.
Okay.
So
Your
about
boy
that,
don't forget.
Like I would say 13:03. But because it makes sense, right? If you think about the communication chain, somebody at SpaceX probably is like, okay, we are 10 minutes away, and then somebody runs to the sheriff or calls the sheriff and tells him, okay, we are 10 minutes away, and then the sheriff
How many engines
then
are on
gets
it?
to
I'm
bring
not.
the siren.
You know what,
And
Cortana?
then
I'm not
Nick takes some
100%
time
sure.
to report the siren to us.
You might want to
So there's
check
a
yourself, though. You
reasonable
might be going
time
rampant with that
delay
question.
between SpaceX saying 10 minutes and us getting the message of 10 minutes.
Yeah, there's definitely like a communication chain there, and there's a
good name.
lag. It's like cars starting from a stoplight, right? And the first car goes, and the next.
I'm gonna guess
they
that
went,
there.
and the next
Yeah,
car
so
goes.
there's
Oh,
6.
oh gosh, I should go. And
So
it takes a little.
Starship usually carries 3 vacuum optimized engines on the outside. So there's like 2 rings. On the outer ring, there's 3 engines, and then on the inner ring, there's another 3. The inner ones are for landing down here. The outer ones are for working up there. I'm not sure if this is going to be all the engines. It might be. The Raptor 2 engines,
Discovery,
the
go
chamber
and
pressure
throttle up.
is so high on those engines because they're really, really cutting edge stuff. They're very powerful motors. The chamber pressure is so ridiculously high, they can fire the rocket with they could fire the vacuum optimized engines down here. That's not something you can usually do. The nozzle on a rocket engine is really, up until this point, is really only designed to either work up there or work down here. Not both. The closest thing that can do both of those things is the Space Shuttle main engine. Space Shuttle main engine won't work for SpaceX in this regard. Not that they would use it even if it did. It wouldn't work for SpaceX in this regard because they're not using the same propellants. That's like trying to make a diesel engine run on gasoline. It's not going to work very well. So, I believe it's 6, but I'm not 100% sure. It should be about 5
Or
minutes
on
away.
Bit of a plug there.
Look at it going
They
up.
show that.
Oh.
Has it been going up
Well-
that much the whole time?
59. I mean, we are at 59, so this would kind of fit with the upstream. Like, I would watch the deluge right now if it
Yeah.
comes up.
I mean, there was a very distinctive upwards motion from the engine chill vent area on the side, and now it's going down again.
I think that's just the wind.
We've turned that it's gotten quieter. We've turned the microphones down so that the static fire doesn't blow out everybody's headsets. But headset wearers, be advised.
Yeah. Engines are loud.
They are, as it turns out.
But the LR91 could run with different propellants.
The deluge is not on yet. But yeah, it might be very soon. This looks more now like
For me saying that
done
most
with
rocket
everything and
engines
the
are
vehicle
designed
is
to
like in
either
stable
work up there or
position.
down here
And they're
doesn't
probably, like,
mean that I'm asking for
asking
the
everyone
engines
kind of
that don't do
polling,
that.
hey,
And
one
also,
advance.
if you can
That
tell
would
me an
make sense
aerospike
in terms-
engine
Should we
that's
press the
fired in
button?
the vacuum,
We get to press the button? Should we press the button?
I'll
Everybody fine with me pressing
say
this
that's
button.
pretty damn impressive
Yeah,
because
right.
one doesn't exist.
Just that one person is not the one. Well, you
Can we
press the
expect a
button.
suborbital test? This is an engine test fire, Josh. I'm pretty sure.
If they needed somebody to press the button, I'll
Guys,
come press
this
the
isn't a SpaceX feed, Snickers. This is NASA Spaceflight. My buddies over at NASA Spaceflight let me restream the footage here. They're totally cool with it. I'm not doing it without their permission. You shouldn't do stuff like that. I do have permission to restream it here. I do have permission to commentate over it. So yeah, if you want this stream, you want to go check out NASA Spaceflight. You don't like listening to my voice, which I hate the sound of my voice, to be honest with you. I'll put the link in chat.
button.
Yeah, it's like this went up, this went down.
It's the vent vector.
The vent vector. Is there a system behind that controls the vent vector? A kind
They
of vent
attached
vector
a
control
hose.
system?
We'll have to ask Victor.
A steel hose to one of the vents.
Victor, the vent vector control system
And it
operator?
goes down here,
Yes.
Rocket Guy, but there are other vents up there where the
Look, I'm just
We go
staring
by
for
vent,
water
I
at the
guess.
bottom of this thing, okay? No time for jokes.
There's always times for jokes.
That's true. Look,
Oh, there we go.
that's water. All right, here we go.
Let's go.
should be about 1 minute, maybe less than that. The timing always changes, but the water suppression system is on to try and protect the concrete. Oh, there we go. 2 engines?
There you go.
That was I would say, I feel pretty confident that was a single engine Raptor static fire.
2.
I love the,
I
it
would
looks like
say
it's
the
on
same,
Mars.
but-
Look at this. It looks like it's just touched down on Mars or something. The orange dust around it. I mean, maybe the water
I
is
saw
a
single
giveaway.
engine
Or
ignition, but I
Nick's
heard 2
tripod.
engines shut
But-
off.
It's a touchdown from a very little hop.
So we just saw a static fire, potentially just 1 engine there. We heard the honks at the end, got a good amount of dust, but definitely saw some flames and definitely saw thrust produced. That's a big thing. There's a difference between like a
No.
pre-burner test
No
and an
graphs.
actual static fire. If it's just a fireball, but there's no real dust that goes in the air, sometimes that might not actually be a static fire. We may call that a pre-burner.
That was
But
8
that
minutes.
produced
It was 8
thrust
minutes
from the
the
engine,
siren, guys.
which hit the concrete pad underneath and cleaned it off, blew all the dust into the air around the ship. So that right there is a Raptor engine underneath the Starship producing thrust in a static fire.
Yeah, and I look at like a frame by frame right now of us, and I don't see like there are indications sometimes that you can see an engine spooling up after we cannot see it anymore because the first one is too bright. For example, the light changing and everything.
Yeah,
But I
it looked
didn't
clean,
see
Jim.
that.
Everything looked
I
good there.
only see 1 engine spooling up, so I would say this was probably a single engine static fire.
Yeah.
I think that
And-
makes good sense.
And I'm seeing, you know, because the honk of the Raptor usually is not like just one thing. It's usually like whoop whoop, like it's 2 honks next to each other. So people are pointing out, well, there's 2 honks. Yeah, I mean, you can just go to McGregor Live and watch Raptors actually fire every single day, multiple times, and figure out that that's actually the sound that they make for 1 single engine. So it's more like whoop whoop.
Yeah, it's like a
So then-
like it's got
Exactly.
a little aftertone to it. There's a
Yep.
little vent happening that didn't have any action before. You see it right there, sort of front and center. Oh, hi.
Depress.
Deep breaths.
So they're alleviating pressure out of the liquid oxygen tank, and now they're relieving pressure out of the methane tank, which indicates taking the tanks down from flight pressure. They have like kind of a standby pressure to before the vehicle presses for flight. When it presses for flight, they increase the pressure in the engines to get the optimal pressure to feed propellant into the rockets. Guys, I could have sworn it was 2. Those honks, I know what they're saying about the 2 honks, but it looked like 2 motors to me. But who knows? I don't know. They're better. They watch more Starship than I do. Let's see it again. This is an instant replay. Hang on, let me back it up. I'm gonna watch it in slow motion. I need to back it up a couple frames. I'm looking for a second flash reflecting off of something. I'm looking for a second flash for that second engine ignition, because those honks, the honks that they're talking about is the sound of the engine shutting off. It's basically the propellant in there, hydraulic hammering, because they closed the valves. That's what that noise is. I heard 2, and they were pretty far apart. Yeah, guys, see, there's another flash happens. Look up at the reflection of Starship. Right? See it right there? That's with 1 engine firing. Now watch right here. It's very clear that the reflection gets way brighter for a second right there, and then it stays bright. See what I'm talking about? Nothing's wrong, Balk. I think they fired 2 engines, but I could be wrong. NSF is saying 1, but it sounded like 2. Here, let me
Discovery, go at throttle up.
Wait. It's hard to say. That reflection when you watch it in real time doesn't... It just looks like the flames reflecting off of the plume.
And we will see if we can't step through some replays.
Yeah, Poga, it could have been reverb.
Yeah, I'm still looking at like... Oh, what's that sound? Of course, they are now in the process of saving this vehicle, and basically
Why would they
detanking
chill
it,
both
making
sides
sure
for
that
one
it's
start?
yeah, properly in a good state again. That's usually what they do now. So
Yeah, I don't know.
With the pressure, step by step, pump out some of the blocks of methane again, cooling it down.
See, I'm confused here because even if it was, I think NSF is right. Actually, they watch more, so I'm gonna defer to their judgment and say that there was one. I said there was two. I don't think I'm right, but okay. So let's think about this for a second. Why would they be firing one or two? Why would they do that? They fired 1 to 2 engines many times. I mean, some people did say it in chat already, but it's probably because they've changed a couple of things and they need to make sure that it works. So, if they started with one engine, I'm more inclined to say that they wouldn't shut down everything just for a single engine fire. I'm more inclined to say that they're probably going to fire 2 engines and then 3 engines after that and maybe even move to 6. Because if they're testing changes overall on the vehicle, you're not going to want... Like, they obviously have moved pressure lines around, right? Because we have vents in different areas. They're testing what's called a different configuration of the vehicle. They put the hardware into a different mode because they changed it. So when you change your hardware like that with rockets, you have to revalidate. You have to revalidate your testing. So if that was one engine, and even if it was 2, I really think that we might see more firing, because they're not going to shut down the entire thing just for one 5-second burn on the engine. SpaceX is way too far into development to just close down the entirety of Boca Chica just for one engine firing. They could... I think we're going to see another one. My dad has been watching this a lot. He said they swapped out an engine on this ship. Oh, yeah, Blue? So that's possibly it? Could be. Yeah, friend, I saw it. That's a good ways inland. Interesting. It must be next to the Ligma River.
Yeah. I'm just spooling back right now where exactly that event came from.
Like, they definitely...
basically...
They definitely changed where the liquid or the gaseous oxygen vents are. I saw them right here and right here. They're at, like, if we're looking at Starship from the front, they're at, like, the 2 o'clock and the 10 o'clock position. If the 12 o'clock position is that right there. See those lines going down there? They had the one with the dent that they swapped out. Yeah, I think Joe lives by the Ligma River. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Adiabatic expansion? Or
I don't know the engines
like
on Starship have gone through
It's
several
something
configuration
adiabatic,
changes since
because
the last
it's
static,
not-
so possibly
there's not like
step
exchange of
test.
heat,
Well, if that would
things
be
like
my
that. It's
guess,
just basically
don't worry
you have
about
a
it.
pressurized
Jacinto.
can and you release the gas and
It's
it
Twitch
cools
chat, man.
off.
You gotta
So
make
that's
immature
what you get
jokes
from
from
that.
time to time. It's Twitch. It's a requirement.
Adiabatic cooling, yeah, something like that.
Nice joke, EJ. Are you 12 years old
All
or
right,
something?
I've got the
Mom's 12
replay
years
from
old. Got
this
'em.
angle here. Let's see if we can't get the split screen thing
See what I
going.
mean?
And
Yeah, I know.
will
It's kind
do
of
the
cringe. You
replay.
gotta do it. It's kind of a requirement.
There you go.
Your mom's a requirement.
It's
Got
pretty
it.
obvious the before and after with the
Oh
flash.
God! Why would that hurt a little bit? But I'm all right.
Discovery, go at throttle up.
Oh yeah, the W86. Good times.
Just tell us
Not for
when-
the other guy,
we
man.
need-
Good
yeah,
times
We're
for us.
working on it. We're
We
working on it.
Yeah.
When you see it appear on the screen.
Okay.
Yeah, Rocket, I
right now,
agree.
This will, like, sometimes it's confusing. Oh, here we go.
Yeah, here we go. So the left-hand side is the replay.
I'm
I
seeing
mean, actually,
double.
you can see the before and after right there because the left-hand side is the before and the right-hand side is the after. So see the line of missing tiles there?
I'm serious. We know you're not leaving.
I say a line.
Who are
I
you
mean,
trying to
it's a few
fool?
tiles in a line, but it's not like the entire swath of tiles.
It's
is
two
missing.
turntables
But
and a
that's
microphone, Das.
That's interesting that it's just one line, right? Like, let's watch it first and then talk about it.
Yep, here goes. Well, I thought I scrolled it to right where the static fire was happening. Maybe I didn't.
Any second.
Yeah, any second. You know, if I click it, it's like 1 second away from the static fire.
Yeah, I
The
know,
water's going,
Spark,
so I'll
right?
just let it go.
Yeah, they're
can
right.
see right
It's one
there.
engine.
Yeah, you could see them popping off. Can you go back to that moment again?
Yeah, let's see here.
Almost
Because you can
instant.
see the tiles all
Right there, you can see them fall
Boom.
off.
Yeah. So we were talking about overpressure events before, fellas. Right? We were talking about the overpressure events. Watch right here when the rocket fires. See that bottom ring? Watch. That's the overpressure event with one Raptor. The pressure wave from firing. Watch right there. Oops. See the tiles come off?
Does everybody see
It's
the
enough to
area we're
literally
talking
blast
about?
the tiles off the side of the vehicle.
So then I would bet this is like
That
some
was a
tension
good
there
drum
that
break.
just relieves with them all like some movement in the tanks or something. Because that makes sense why they would pop all at the same time in the same area, right?
Yeah.
Like some sort of movement in the tank.
Those white, I don't even know if they're missing tiles or just the tops got scraped or something like that. But you can obviously see those tiles falling off there down at the bottom.
Yeah. Kind of cool to see it.
Yeah, it is.
And yeah, it's definitely like one like line. I wouldn't say this is from vibration itself. It looks more. It's like more like a tank moving issue, like
It's
not
not
the vibration
impossible.
of the static fire itself, so like the relieving pressure and everything.
Yeah.
It's not
Why are there vents on the tile side? I don't see any vents on the tile side. Do you?
possible, just guessing here, that when they did that work on that well line with the reinforcement and everything,
How do you test a rocket engine without actually causing it to lift off? Friend, hold down points are what they're called, and they literally clamp the rocket to the pad. Like, think putting parts of the rocket in a vise. That's really the only way to do it. And then, I've been watching Starship for some time. These pilings and that concrete go down a little ways. That's the only way. Hold it into the ground. Yeah, rockets don't like to be near the ground. I don't know if you've ever launched a model rocket. It gets away from the ground very quickly. So it's critical to lose some. Shuttle was okay to lose some. Chem,
Starship.
if it was me, now the shuttle did lose tiles, but you got to remember the shuttle didn't lose tiles because, like, during re-entry. It lost tiles from hitting a humid atmosphere in Florida, and the tiles absorbing so much water that they would literally just soak the glue that the tile was using to adhere to the aluminum. The glue that they used on the space shuttle to glue the tiles to it are water soluble. Is water soluble for whatever reason. I don't know why they did that. I don't know. So when the shuttle was landing in California, it really wasn't a big deal. When they started landing those things, when they started bringing the shuttles to KSC and they started landing them in KSC and the shuttle was sitting out in Florida's humid atmosphere, that's when the tiles started falling off. So like when the shuttle would fly in, some of them might pop off. That forced them to basically inspect 30,000 tiles and re-inject them if they figured that they were loose after every mission. That sounds just like a lot of work, and well, it was. But yet, honestly, you don't want to lose tiles. That's the truth at the end of the day. You do not want to put your vehicle into a failure mode where parts are coming off and you're like, it's not a big deal. That is a really bad way to do things with spaceflight. I dropped this O2 tank on the ground. I'll put it in the service module anyway. When they stir the tanks, it might explode, but yeah, it'll be fine. O-rings don't work? It'll be fine. No. Oh, something hit the shuttle on the way up? It'll be fine. Every time someone has gone, it'll be fine. It has not ended well. Yeah. So you really don't want to just be like, oh, when we fire the rocket engine, tiles come off. Well, that sucks. Yeah, it'll be fine. No. You really don't want to lose anything with your thermal protection system. Yeah. So, you say like, oh, the shuttle could lose some. The shuttle would lose some, but it's important to understand that where it was losing it was after re-entry. Don't get me wrong. If I was running the shuttle program, I'd be like, yep, that's not good enough. Not good enough. But I am not a scientist, nor am I running a space program. So, who knows? But yeah, you ideally do not want anything coming off of your vehicle when it flies, except if it's intended to come off. Because, yeah, just being laissez-faire about that kind of stuff is how people die. And the same is for airplanes as well. Oh, I'm going to do a pre-flight check. Oh, there's water in the fuel? It'll be all right. That's fine. It's fine. It'll be fine. It's just water. Water explodes. Right? I run a fake space program in a video game. I don't know about these tiles. I think SpaceX should think about something else. Dennis, if you can offer me a solution that covers a grain silo, that's a good thermal protection system for literally a grain silo sized spacecraft, that is lighter, that has less mass than those tiles, you tell me. Oops, I dropped the pressure tank. No biggie, it'll buff out. Humid climate makes them fall off. Could be an oopsie moment, too. The shuttle was designed and tested in California, Kim. You know how I always go on those... Oh, there's a drone up there, or a bird, depending on your worldview. They're inspecting the tiles. Look, see? SpaceX is looking at behind that wing. They're looking at the tiles. Evaporative cooling. Once again, man, okay, you want to do transpiration cooling, right? So, like what certain weapon systems do, I'm sure you know. You want to do something like that. That's easy to do on a nuclear warhead that's not very big. That's really hard to do on something that's that big. That's why they abandoned the idea. It's not a tenable solution. The amount of propellant that you'd need for transpiration cooling in this regard would literally be like a full fuel tank. And if a full fuel tank's worth of propellant to get through re-entry is what you need to re-enter, you can't tell me that the 20,000 tiles that are on Starship are going to be less mass or more mass than that. I highly doubt it. The amount of debris I see go flying after every static fire from Boca makes me think the flame trench water deluge is insufficient for a full-up launch. Rocket, we were actually talking about that, dude. Everyone's like, why haven't they built a flame trench? Why haven't they built a flame trench? Well, on these suborbital pads, this is actually good for Starship because you know that SpaceX is testing in some capacity what it's like to fire these engines near the surface of a planet. SpaceX's stated goals seem to be in line with ships landing near the surface of other celestial bodies and planets, so that reads correct. So I wouldn't want a flame trench on my test pads. Now, on the big one, so Rocket, we were talking about this, and I'll be honest with you, dude. If someone out there has a solution to be able to deal with 72 meganewtons of thrust and like kind of take that and move it in another direction, I'm pretty sure SpaceX is looking for a solution there. I mean, Rocket, there's no way that they don't know that they need a flame diverter. The problem is that if you put a flame diverter down there, dude, even if you use like the flame diverter from like the B2 test stand, which is one of the most beefy flame diverters around, it was designed to be able to withstand a long-term blast from a Saturn V first stage. That's the test stand at Stennis that they used for testing the Saturn V first stage, or 4670 at Marshall, right? That would literally get destroyed from if they put it underneath. It'll just get obliterated. We're talking double the thrust of a Saturn V here. I'm not sure there's any material science solution that we know of that could solve that problem right now. But I think that SpaceX is working on it, and I do agree with you. But you got to remember, if they're planning to launch, catch and receive spacecraft and launch spacecraft literally like on the frequency of an airplane, whatever solution that they put down there has to be as reusable as the rest of the Starship system, right? If it's not, who cares? If you design a plane that can take off and land from a runway multiple times a day, but you have to resurface the runway after every landing, everything that you did with the plane is useless, right? Not certain if my last was seen. It's always a matter of burning down risks with respect to available resources. No diverter was clearly a low-risk priority. That risk taking into account repair times and cost. The diverter will most likely come, but entire stack in operation seems very fluid in design, and a diverter could require changes later. Bingo. Rocket, I said that right when we picked up the coverage, because that was the first question I got asked. Yeah, they're not focusing on it. It's literally cheaper to just repave the stupid thing right now. But I do agree. They're going to need to come up with a solution. But whatever that solution is going to have to be a real humdinger of a solution, man. A real humdinger of a solution, boy, I tell you what. Maybe we could put propane in the pad. Ooh! I keep thinking, why not just put a steel plate on the ground and actively cool it with water? Human person. Pressures and temperatures of a nuclear blast. A steel plate in water is not going to do anything. It will evaporate the water immediately and then melt the steel plate to the ground. Interesting, Hellfish. I'm guessing you heard about Everyday Astronaut. Gravioli, did you hear that Everyday Astronaut did a Tim Dodd on the moon with Starship? Did you hear that they Astro Boyed a Starship to the moon? Yeah, of course I heard. I'm super happy for Tim. That's amazing. Have 2 for 1. Take off and have 2 for 1. Take off and 1 for landing. Tron, actually, you know what? We've talked here on the stream about how SpaceX might have a launch pad and a catch tower at the Cape because they don't want to risk their launch pad until they're confident the catch tower works, which is interesting. I kind of do hate the tile solution, but I can't think of anything better. Guys, the tiles are not a bad way of doing things. These are not space shuttle tiles, fellas. They're not space shuttle tiles. They're not even made out of the same material. The space shuttle tiles are silicate-based tiles. So what does that mean? It rocks. It's a very porous, very, very light rock. Like with the consistency of styrofoam. It's like the consistency and weight of a block of styrofoam. It's very, very light. You're not going to come up with something that's as light as the tiles. The complexity of the tiles, right? The tiles are a little complicated, but they are literally the lightest solution. When I say lightest, I mean they are the least mass solution. Now, and that's with silicate tiles. SpaceX is using tough and unifibrous reinforced oxidation-resistant, corrosion-resistant tiles. They are carbon composite tile that's even lighter because carbon. There's literally a bunch of charcoal, like charcoal epoxy tiles, basically, is what that is. Like, for like consistency, it's not actually, it's unifibrous carbon. So they're carbon fiber tiles, and they're bolted to it because you can do that with stainless steel. They couldn't do that with the shuttle because aluminum expands and contracts in a very short temperature range. So the shuttle tiles had to be glued because if they tried to bolt them to each other, they would just pop off. Yeah, username. Nice hoodies from NSF. Go buy one. They're cool. They're nice hoodies. I wonder if they will give Tim cameras to film when he's up there. Of course, Sleepy. That's the whole point of Dear Moon. Do you think it is possible that some kind of titanium steel alloy would be able to at least withstand the heat required of a diverter? Okay, so Wolf-Pepper, we're getting into some what's called finite element analysis here. It's called FEA, and FEA is part of material science. So, okay, what you really have to do, so different elements and different alloys have a couple of different things. A block of metal, whatever it may be, or a block of any solid will be able to absorb a certain amount of heat before it melts. Rocks can absorb the most amount of heat. What are rocks? Rocks are a metal alloy. They're a combination of just a bunch of different metals. Or, I mean, granite, for instance, is just, all that is just a bunch of different metals. Rocks can withstand insane amounts of heat, which is why they made tiles out of rocks for the space shuttle. But when we're talking about material science, so titanium steel, no. The steel would ablate immediately, and probably so would the titanium. Yeah. And that's not even including the physical changes that are going to be encountered when pressure hits that thing. I don't care if you have a titanium door. The titanium door is not going to do much when it gets hit by a pressure wave that's like 1 megapascal or something. Like, it's not, doesn't matter. So, in terms of temperature, you know, when we're going back to material science here, in terms of temperature, it's all about how much heat you can flux. So, like, if the titanium can absorb all that heat, and then on top of that, what's the total impulse of heat that block of titanium can take? How much heat can it absorb? So how much can it move the heat? How much can it absorb the heat? Or how quickly it can absorb the heat, and how much it can absorb it before it melts? Generally, that's for any metal. It's not a lot. I mean, titanium, sure, absolutely. But you got to remember, on top of this, so we're just talking temperature here. Is titanium strong enough to withstand a nuclear blast? Sure, maybe. But, you know, let's just say it can take the blast, okay? It takes the blast from the overpressure event, the thing that literally ripped the doors off of SLS's elevator. Like, it ripped the doors off the mobile launcher. They blew the doors off. That's how powerful that was. And that was half the thrust of what super heavy is. Say pressure notwithstanding. We're just talking straight temperature here. So picture some ideal scenario where there's no pressure, okay? We're talking about straight temperature. When the block of titanium steel that you have reaches its critical mass, so critical mass reaches the maximum amount of heat that it can absorb, right? It'll start ablating. It'll start burning off. That energy has to go somewhere. It has to go somewhere. And remember, energy is quantitative, and that rocket is putting out an insane amount of energy in a very short period of time. That energy has to go somewhere. So what will the metal do? Well, it'll start to change phase. It'll turn to liquid. And then it'll turn to gas if you heat it up even more. It'll literally evaporate your metal. That evaporation in this particular scenario is ablation. You'll literally ablate the metal right off. There will be nothing left. You'll evaporate it right off like a heat shield on a capsule coming back through reentry. You will ablate it right off. There will be nothing left. So, and that's just temperature. That's not even pressure. Pressure's a whole nother ballgame. We're talking about being able to withstand the pressure wave of a nuclear blast and then being able to withstand the heat on top of that. So you put channels in it with coolant circulating. You can do that. Some test flame trenches nearly do that. But okay, so now it's how well can you flux heat from the rocket engine to the metal to the water channels that are inside of the metal. What temperature is the water that you're putting through there? If you're putting through the water at like 1C, about as cold as you can get before it solidifies, right? That water is going to instantly flash heat to over 100C. By exchanging coolant, it'll just come out as steam out the other side of the cooling channels. That literally is what they do with rocket pads, but they don't even bother doing cooling channels. Cooling channels are really only reserved for like test stands. So like some of the stands at McGregor have a cooling channel flame trench like that. The test stands at Stennis do that. So we watched the rocket engine on the A2 yesterday, the RS-25. We watched that thing go. The inside of a rocket engine is definitely harder to cool than a flame bucket. Yeah, but you're using cryogenic propellants to cool it, and that's the only thing that keeps it cool. Heat has to go somewhere. So what they do is actually they spray the pad they spray the pad on top of the metal, so it's water droplets. Those immediately get flashed off into steam. Water is very good at absorbing heat. That's why we use it for power plants. It's very good at taking that energy. Metal does too, but certain metals are more conductive than others. Like aluminum is more conductive of heat. That's why radiators on cars are made out of aluminum nowadays and not lead or copper or nickel like it was back in the day. Well, not necessarily nickel. It's more lead, copper, and brass and stuff like that. But they spray water on top of the flame trench, and they have cooling channels as well. So it's water, metal, and water. So the water here is there to absorb some of the heat. The metal is there to push the blast in a different direction. And then even then, the metal channels are cooled with water inside of them to keep them from melting. But guys, you got to remember, even the B2 test stand at Stennis, the one that's designed to literally take 7.5 million pounds of thrust sustained for like 2.5 minutes. We're talking double that. Super Heavy's ascent trajectory is like a 120-second burn at 72 meganewtons of thrust. There's no test stand in the world that can take that. Not even close. You'd literally destroy the test stand and the rocket itself too. No one's ever tried to build a flame trench like this. No one's ever tried to build a test stand like this. No one's ever tried to build a launch pad that can take this amount of heat and pressure. There's no way. Like, I'm not going to say there's no way. That's not right. That's not the right way to say it. There is a solution. SpaceX is just focusing on getting the vehicle finished. So, like, putting plates down there, no. Anything you put down there, you're going to lose. At least right now. I don't know what the solution is. If it was up to me, literally just make a taller launch pad. I think that would be the best solution here. I really, because you got to remember, even if they put a flame diverter down there that takes the blast, right? How many times is that thing going to be able to be used before it literally just croaks? Right? You got to remember, you're still heating up that metal. Even if you're flowing water through the cooling channels, you're still heating up the metal. The metal does go through load cycles. It will fatigue and it'll eventually break. I think with what SpaceX is doing with trying to launch a rocket every day, that's literally a nuclear blast going off on the pad every day. Don't you think the pad would eventually get broken? The best part would probably be to just move the pad higher. Like, that would be my solution, man. Because anything you put down there, you're going to lose. I think the best diverter is no diverter. But I don't think SpaceX... I think they'll find something. They might end up going with a diverter. Who knows? Just to get the vehicle going and then come up with a more tenable solution. Right now, they're literally the most inexpensive solution that they've come up with is to not put a flame trench down there and recast the concrete. Because recasting the concrete is cheap compared to putting your engineers on something like engineering a flame trench that's designed to withstand a nuclear blast. Do what Soyuz does and have a pad over a huge cliff or a hole. TJ, if you can give me a pad that can reach equatorial orbits in the continental United States that could do something like that and not just have the pad turn into a giant reflecting pool, yeah, let me know. The water table in Florida and Texas is much too high to be able to do something like that. Any hole if you dug a hole that deep, it would actively need sumps to pump all the water out. Or else you would just make a gigantic swimming pool. Because we're really close to sea level here. The Grand Canyon, maybe. Yeah, I'm sure the environmentalists will be really happy about a nuclear blast going off in the Grand Canyon every day. I'm sure they'll be really good on that. Does it have to be empty? Mater, I wouldn't fire a rocket engine into a swimming pool. That's not a good idea at all. You need the water droplets to absorb the heat. The water needs to be in drops to absorb the heat correctly. That way you're exposing all the surface area of the droplet. That's the way to get water to absorb the most amount of heat. You're just firing into a swimming pool. My guess is you'll spray water back up into the rocket engine and I'm not going to say you'll hydrolock your rocket engine, but also the cavitation that would come from doing that is absurd. Now I know what people are going to say. Well, EJ, what about Sea Dragon? Well, there's a reason why Sea Dragon doesn't exist. I mean, Van, firing a rocket engine into water You ever see that Mythbusters where they fire bullets into a swimming pool? Something like that. Stops the bullet real quick. Where is all that gas going to go? Remember, liquid, incompressible. So it would make either the craziest tidal wave of all time, which I highly doubt, or it's going back up into the rocket engine. Can you imagine, dude? Like, imagine if something like Sea Dragon actually exists. They would go to fire that rocket engine and they'd create so much cavitation underneath it, it would probably go down and then up. It would probably sink a little bit and then go up. The LOX tank has ice on it, Sleepy, because it condensed, because they vented it, and they dropped the pressure in there, so it dropped the temperature, so they had condensation on the outside. Some type of geometric baffle system to relieve that pressure. Yeah. Could always just build a really big submarine and launch it like Polaris. Well, I mean, Hellfish, it's funny that you mentioned that, because that's the closest thing we have to something launching out of the water. What they do when they go to launch a Polaris missile is they release it with a pneumatic system, so the missile is literally riding in a cloud of, like an air pocket all the way to the surface. And then once it goes out, that's when it fires. The missile does not get wet on the way up. Maybe a little bit, but not like what we're talking about here. There's a Falcon 9 being recovered at Kennedy, by the way. It would look so damn cool while doing it. Yeah. Yeah, those submarine-launched missiles, guys, think about it. Do you want your rocket getting hit with salt water? Do you want salt water anywhere near any type of rocket engine? No, you don't want water anywhere near it. You want water underneath it. When a submarine goes, it basically just blorps out a freaking air bubble, and the missile is actually riding inside of that air bubble. And then when it goes up above the ground, that's when it fires, or above the water. That's 1073. Cool. The oil rig, I think, would fix those problems, guys, but I want to go back to it. Like, we'll go back to the flame diverter. Subject RE flame diverter. I honestly don't think that they're even thinking about a solution for that right now. Right now, the cheapest solution, because the engineers are focusing on development of the vehicle and booster, the cheapest solution is to literally just hire some guys to go and repave the concrete. But why use Sea Dragon and Starship when we got Eco Rocket? Ugh. Okay. Saltwater plus heat equals bad. Yeah. Nice, Ox. Yeah, well, yeah, exactly. But yeah. I'm not saying, like, I know I keep saying, like, oh my god, there's nothing, anything you put down there is going to lose. No, I'm sure there is a solution. I just, first and foremost, I don't think SpaceX cares right now. Just repave the stupid thing. I think they're going to get the vehicle figured out and then scale the launch pad accordingly to the vehicle. You guys got to remember, they're way into uncharted territory. Have you ever seen anything like this in the world, ever? Not, the only time we've seen anything even remotely like this is in sci-fi. You know what I mean? That's some Buck Rogers stuff coming down and landing like that. Did you talk about the new leak on Soyuz yet? Yeah, I did it right at the beginning of the stream, New Century. Yep. I think we are starting to see some of the downsides of rapid iteration. I wouldn't call them downsides, Hellfish. It's what I always say. Like, it's what I always say, dude. It doesn't matter if it's SLS. It doesn't matter if it's Starship. It doesn't matter if it's public. It doesn't matter if it's a private company. It's going to cost billions of dollars. You want to change the game, it's going to cost billions of dollars. It does not matter how you do it. SpaceX wants to launch a lot. They're using reusability to as a tenable solution to high launch cadence. Payload mass to orbit is their goal. That is a very expensive thing. I'm not saying it's impossible. It's definitely not impossible. But no one's ever tried to do something like this. You want to change the game, you got to spend some money. Did it fire? Yes, Hypersonic. Keep you up. We don't know how much SpaceX has spent on Starship. Yeah, but Shortline, you'd have to be turning a blind eye or willfully ignorant to think that this isn't a multi-billion-dollar endeavor here. I would say SpaceX, Boca Chica, 39A, the Star Factory at Kennedy, Boca Chica Village, the High Bay. Dude, we're into the billions. Easily into the billions. How long has the Starship program existed in its current capacity? So since 2018, we're easily into the billions. Easily. Like, I bet you we're at SLS numbers in terms of expenditure per year. I'll bet you. Well, how do I know that? Well, it does more. Now, I still wouldn't say that. Now, okay, if there's SpaceX fanboys that are watching this, well, first of all, the people that beat the drum that SpaceX can do it for cheaper. Yeah, you're probably right. But vehicle expenditure and development is vehicle expenditure and development. I think SpaceX has it right because they want to launch more, not less. You don't spend $2 billion to develop a launch vehicle and then launch it once a year. That's a really bad idea because you're never going to get your money back, right? You're never going to get your money back. It's going to cost more money to keep the thing operational and launch it once a year than it is launching it like 4 or 5 times a year. I think SpaceX has it right. And my point I'm saying is that the price of doing something like this and the price of making a fully reusable launch vehicle is going to outweigh SLS. It's going to be more money than SLS because you're asking it to do more. Now, where I think people get confused there is they think I'm saying like, oh, Starship's going to end up exactly like SLS. No. Hell no, it's not. I'm saying it's more complicated, so it's going to take more money to design it. The Starship program will probably end up costing just as much as SLS, but at the end of the day, you have a fully reusable launch vehicle versus a fully expendable launch vehicle. See what I'm talking about? I still think SpaceX is better with its dollars than NASA is. And that's not to say that SLS is bad. SLS flies. Starship does not. See what I'm saying? Booster 9 is on the move. Oh, yeah, I see it over there. Nice. Unrelated. Yeah, Edmana, I don't really care. I really don't. That has nothing to do with space. I'm going to stay in my lane as a spaceflight streamer, and if it doesn't have to do with space, I don't care. It's not my job to convey opinions about stuff I don't know about. That's what Twitter is for. Yeah, Hellfish. So at the end of the day, fellas, what I'm trying to tell you is that it doesn't matter if you're building Starship, doesn't matter if you're building SLS, Saturn V, it's going to cost you billions of dollars. Super heavy launch vehicles are that complicated. It doesn't matter if you're good with money or not good with your money. It's still going to cost billions of dollars. Now, what you do with it after that is very important. When was the last time anything was airborne at Boca Chica? 2 years ago, man. Oh, that's really cool. Very nice. Booster 9 is rolling here, but it looks like this video is kind of frozen because the lights on the car aren't doing anything. Can you believe that, Ox? That's what I like to always show. You know, I haven't done a lot of space news lately because I've been busy playing KSP, right? And that's not a bad thing. But, you know, they're developing these things. It's right next to a parking lot. So it's one of the few scenarios where you actually just get to see, like, a regular road with a rocket moving down the regular road. Like, and the scale here is insane to convey. Like, I don't think people realize how big that thing actually is. It's huge. Over 150 feet tall. That's ridiculous. That is half of a football field for the Americans. For everybody else, it's about 50 meters, give or take. That's a 15-story building. It's 9 meters wide, or about 30 feet. 30 feet wide, 150 feet tall. So 9 by 50 for the metric folks. That's ridiculous. I'm happy that Mick is at Mercedes now, finally a team that appreciates him. Yeah, Sebi, I think Haas messed up, and what I'm starting to think is that, Mick might have not been the problem. I think Mick is an extremely competent driver, and I think he needs a team that's going to push him. I mean, I get it. It was in Formula One simulator, but look what happens when I pushed, and I tried to give him the best. I tried to play to his strengths as much as I could, and we got him in the points multiple times in F1 Manager. Now, don't get me wrong. That's F1 Manager. It's F1 Manager. It's not real life. I understand that. I think that Toto Wolff will sufficiently motivate Mick to get into the points whenever he gets in a seat in a car. I think it was stupid for Haas to get rid of him. I think it was stupid for Ferrari to get Mick away from his driver's program. That's literally the dumbest thing I've ever heard. I think that's a very short-term, short-sighted solution, but hey, whatever. What do you want? They tested it already, Andre. Yeah. Yeah, they tested it. Sounds like the barn I want to build for my buddy to park his Kenworth in. Yeah, well, that thing is a monster. So, guys, Skylab can almost fit inside of Starship's payload bay. Skylab was the single biggest, contiguous payload launched into space. Now, don't get me wrong. The International Space Station is bigger than Skylab, but that took more than one launch. That took 36 or 37 shuttle assembly missions or something like that. I forget how many there were to build the ISS. It took a lot of missions, and not every payload was launched by the space shuttle. 2 were launched by Proton. Zarya, Zvezda. Yeah, so they, Skylab is the biggest payload ever launched in one shot, and that can fit inside of Starship's payload bay. Starship is as big as the space shuttle's external tank. The orange tank that the space shuttle rides on. It's as big as that. And it's... Booster 9's moving. And that's the upper stage. That's the first stage. No, Byron. It's a triangle. Google it. I'm thinking about attaching a Skylab module to your space station. Jack, I would say, judging by what I'm seeing in the state of the pads here, I haven't checked in a little while, but judging by what I'm seeing, it's not going to happen this year. I would say January, February. Yeah, Sebby. Who knows? Interesting, Forge.
Discovery, go at throttle.
Let go. 34-month resub. What's up, dude? A triangle, you say? Byron, when the trolls come in here, not the trolls, but the actual people that think that, I always tell them hey, it's a snow cone. Think a snow cone. Half of it is flat and the other half is circular. That's why half people think it's flat. Think it's a snow cone, and they get really confused. They go, "What?" I'm like, "It's a snow cone. Get out of here." And they're like, "Oh, okay." Out nut job the nut jobs. It works. It's a snow cone, man. What are you talking about? What are you, dumb? Yeah, people get really confused. It's a snow cone, bro. Not a yellow one. Never have the yellow one. Ever. I know it's winter. It's the holidays. Don't have the yellow snow cone, okay? Take the blue one. Trust me. Yes, it works, but at what cost? Yeah, Stygian. You out nut job the nut job. I've done that many times on stream. It's fun. It works until you make a more powerful nut job. Well, Aqualex, if this is a scenario of who can reach rock bottom first, well, guess what? Rock bottom is a bottomless pit. So if you outjob the nut job, there's no net loss or gain because it's a bottomless pit. There's no end. Yeah. Yeah. You're like, damn. Sometimes EJ doesn't even do it on purpose. You shut your fat freaking moderator mouth. Just came home and all my space news are full of the MS-22 leaks. What exactly happened? Is there any details yet? Nah, Nemedco, there isn't any details, but it's a coolant leak. It is ammonia. I don't know if it's going to affect the vehicle, but whatever it was, it wasn't enough to put NASA and Roscosmos into a full panic mode. So honestly, I don't think it's that big of a deal, because they literally okay, we'll sleep on it. So that tells me that whatever the problem is, they were able to contain it. And now they're trying to figure out a contingency procedure. If they had stayed up and burned the midnight oil, then we would have a problem. But yeah, I honestly, them saying, all right, everything's stable, let's go to sleep and we'll figure it out in the morning, that tells me that it's not that big of a deal. Don't get me wrong. A Soyuz just literally peed all over the space station. Yeah, that's probably not good. But now's not the time to lose your cool. Let's figure out what we need to do to fix it. They're planning a thruster test on Soyuz tomorrow. Interesting. Yeah, Wolf Pepper. I think that's how that logic works. That sounds right to me. So you're telling me that the scale of crazy is like Pac-Man, where you go too far in one direction, you actually end up at the other side? Yep. That's what we should tell people from now on. I just saw a single-engine fire, Hibbit, and then they brought the thing down. Brought the thing down from flight pressure. Booster 9 and beyond don't have the HPUs due to them moving to the electric thrust vector control system. Marked with a blue square is the new point for the pins on the transport stands and the OLM. Oh, the locator pin. Yeah, I got you. Interesting. It's crazy how simplified this thing is getting, Thomas. That's called the horseshoe curve. I'm pretty sure that the horseshoe curve is in Pennsylvania. No? Alright, cool. Pause. Starship has an electric thrust vector electric gimbal. Since when? Since Booster 9, Alex. Yeah, we haven't talked about it in a little while because I just haven't been doing space news. That's, yeah, this was linked before, but also, oh my god, okay. I am never gonna financially recover from this. That's difficult to watch. Oh my god. That physically hurt me. I can't, dude, I can't watch that. I can't watch that. Don't show me that again. Oh my god. I mean, as long as the pilot's okay, we can laugh about it, but oh my god, my wallet. I think we need a paramedic for my wallet. Missed it. Link it, please. Dude, you don't want to look at it. It's okay. No, please stop. Is that recent? I guess that was today. No, wait. So, it hurts. It hurts to watch. It's like watching the B-2 crash. You're just like, ah!
Discovery, go
Oh!
at throttle up.
Oh! Oh! No! Oh! Ah! Link it. I want to send it to your brother. And it gets worse, dude. Yeah, it's like watching a train wreck. And then the guy ejects. I'm like, oh my god, what are you doing? Oh my goodness. Oh god. I don't think it'll buff out to you, man. It's fine. The B-2 belly flop in Guam. That's so hard to watch, Hellfish. It's so hard to watch. It's so difficult. I'm like, Oh God. Oh God. No. No. You know, EJ, if you're gonna spew into this. Yeah, Spotch. Hey, look. You know, everybody's saying, why did he eject? Well, when you have a plane that has a person on board, the person on board is the foremost expert in what's going on with failure modes on that plane. If the guy that they trusted to fly the F-35B around thinks he needs to eject, I believe that he needs to eject. Yeah. If he thought that that was the right move, guess what? Have fun going for a ride, dude. Oh, that's good, Thomas. Yeah. This is frozen. Should have engaged slew mode. Yeah, that would have been the 5-head solution. Yeah, exactly, Calpar. Mm-hmm. I never saw the B2 belly flop. Show it. No. No. Don't make me watch that. Yeah, man, someone just told me about it. It looked like he was coming out of slew mode. Yeah, that's a good point. Hypersonic, yeah. Dude, you do not want to watch the... Oh, don't make me show this. I don't want to watch this. This is extremely difficult. Alright, whatever. Just prepare yourself. I can't look. Is it over? Is it over? Oh, it's not over. Oh. I will never financially recover from this. Can we not? Can we go back to just booster moving? Oh, that's difficult to watch.
Discovery, go at throttle up.
It's like that scene in The Waterboy where the announcers are watching. Brent, it's all over. Ah, my leg. Huh. Wow, that is a disturbing
Discovery, go at
image.
throttle up.
Difficult to watch, Brent. Difficult to watch. It's only a $2 billion aircraft. $2 billion in 1988 money. That's fine. No, the sensor was broken, Hibbit. Sensor wasn't calibrated. Pray for Mary, 9-month resub. I do every day. Or is it pray? Is it pray or is it pray with an E? If it's pray for Mary, then you might want to run. I think Mary's hungry. Interesting, Aqualex, huh? Oh, that one, it was an engine failure on takeoff, and the other engine powered back to keep it from skewing and reduce thrust too much it couldn't take off. Just build 10 more. What? No. No. Yeah, Byron, right? It's ridiculous. I think that's why it hurts the most, man. You're just like, oh, I will never financially recover. Zelda Fax, 19-month resub. Thank you. Yeah, Hibbit. Pilot error doesn't happen when you're flying a plane that expensive around. Yeah. But will we ever financially recover from this? Why is this just turning into EJ reacts to plane crashes? Oh yeah, we will. Yeah, that one, Vulcan. Yeah, we're good. %3 deviation in engineering analysis to testing. It's pretty freaking good. Yep, okay. Sea last for awesome pictures. Can't say I've been here to see, but have you built a B-2? No, never. I try not to build bombers so much. Yeah, they repaired it. Nice. How does the price of B2 compare to a Starship? Hard to say. Starship's still in development, Broken. There's this thing about developing with aerospace projects, okay? Anything that flies. Plane. I mean, this does apply to cars too. Any form of like mechanical equipment without, albeit flying through the air, or floating in water, or rolling on the ground, or riding on rails. There's a couple of different things that you got to take into account. You want to get per unit pricing. Per unit pricing is either market driven or it's development driven. What does that mean? So, if it cost you $1 billion to develop it and you want to launch it 10 times, how much is it per launch to recoup your investment, right? That's development driven pricing. If it's market driven, right? I mean, I suppose development is kind of driven by market too, right? So if it's market driven pricing, you look at everybody else's stuff and say, oh, if my rocket costs $100 million to launch, right, and everybody else's costs $100 million to launch, my rocket either A, needs to be better, or B, needs to be able to fly more. And if it can fly more, then the price goes down over time because it flies more. It does literally more than the other guy's rocket, right? That's what SpaceX is trying to do here. But those prices cannot really be. You really can't figure that one out until you have something to show. You know what I mean? So Starship really doesn't look at that. That just looks wrong. So Starship is still in development. So we really haven't gotten that far even to say like what a per unit price is for a booster or a Starship, because we don't know what a fully reusable booster and a fully reusable Starship looks like. You can't. It's hard to derive either one. Now, Elon, when he's talking about it, I watch a lot of press interviews with that guy in it. When he's talking about spaceflight, he said that they could theoretically get down to $2 million a pop per flight. Sure. Yeah. Okay. Anybody could say that. First of all, it's harder to do, but SpaceX is the only one that's actually trying to solve that problem. Now, that represents a nominal theoretical window with everything going correctly. Like, you build a fully reusable rocket, it works exactly as you intended the first time, and it never has any problems, and you move immediately into scale production. Now, I'm not an aerospace engineer, but I know enough, as Mike Seraphin would say, I know enough to be dangerous, okay? To know a little bit as to how this works. This never happens, okay? This scenario never happens. Something always goes wrong. So you're never going to achieve that right off the bat. It could be decades for Starship to get to that price point. You're not going to get it right off the bat. It's going to cost money. The first 747 flights were super expensive, but Boeing made money off that over time, don't you think? Considering they've made them for 50 freaking years almost, or more than 50 years. Last one rolled off the assembly line. Here's to the Queen, guys. Queen of the skies. Oh, nice picture. That's a very nice looking plane, Thomas, yeah. Probably made a slight profit. Yep. I still think they should have done that proposed high-altitude supersonic downrange flight test with SN16 last year to get the data before the orbital flight test. Do you think that would have been useful to fill in the gap in testing? I think they would have done more airborne testing, Squishin, if the FAA didn't get up their tail about stuff. Cheers to the Queen. Long live the 747. You're damn right, Nate. Are they continuously producing the larger Starlink satellites? I don't think the larger Starlink satellites RJ have entered serial production, meaning mass production. No, not yet. They're still making prototypes. Ford Trimotor. You know what, Yumo? For the time, the Trimotor was a really good plane. Henry Ford wanted to have his hands in everything, dude. He wanted Ford to make cars, trucks, airplanes, tractors, semi-trucks, everything. Like, everything. Anything that he thought he could make money on, he wanted it. And, you know, for a first attempt at an airplane, the Trimotor really wasn't bad for the time. It was actually pretty good. It's a shame that Ford never continued with that aerospace development, or aero development, you know. Ford continued to work in the aerospace sector. If you look at all the consoles and mission control for the Apollo program in the 60s, Ford made all of them. Yeah, all those, you know, consoles with all those flashing lights, yeah, they were all made by a Ford subcontractor. True story. There's 50 Starlink V2 sats in the hangar at Boca. Well, 50 is not enough to be serial production, Forge. They've accumulated that over the last 6 months. They have an unlimited license for suborbital tests, so that wouldn't have been an issue, really. So why didn't they do it then, Ian? I think the Trimotor was his son's thought, wasn't it? Etzel? Yeah, maybe. Possibly. But you know good and well that he had to okay that through his dad. If he didn't sell it on the idea, they would have, yeah, the big freaking Henry Ford Sr. would have been like, nah. Yeah, give or take, Sam. I'm telling you, man, building stuff like this takes time. It's going to take time. It's going to take time. Best case scenario, SpaceX might be able to match the pace of the Apollo program. Maybe. But you got to remember, the Apollo program's budget was absurd. From what I could tell, they were too optimistic about how long it would take to get orbital. Any other flight would be a distraction from that, so they didn't do it. Might have been worth it, though, looking back. Ian, I think it was a number of contributing factors. I think that the FAA wanting to clarify and codify Starship testing at Boca Chica as opposed to Falcon 9 testing played a lot into that, and that coupled with wanting to focus on orbital flight. I think it's a little bit of both, dude. Probably more focusing on orbital flight, less FAA, but also. Got a question. How much more fuel will need to be burned to land the booster compared to Falcon 9? It's a bigger rocket, Corey. You're going to need more fuel. You got to remember, dude, there's no brakes with these things. Hi, by the way. Where have you been? There's no brakes with these things. Hitting the gas pedal is what slows you down. It's not so much shifting into reverse and hitting the gas. You want to go in a different direction with a rocket, or i.e. stop before the ground comes up too quickly. You turn the business end of the rocket down and then hit the gas pedal. But if you have a 4-cylinder engine from like a Honda Civic and you try to put that in like a big truck, right? that engine is not going to work as well. You need a bigger engine, and that bigger engine to move that more mass, right? A bigger car needs a bigger engine. Bigger truck needs a bigger engine. And that engine is going to consume more fuel because it's a bigger engine. There is something to note, though. Just because you're consuming more fuel doesn't necessarily mean that a car is more or less efficient. And this is something that I think is really important to understand. Okay? So, like, a semi-truck has a diesel engine. A diesel engine, it's diesel fuel. It's not gasoline. So you're changing your commodity, right? You're changing your fuel. And that has a lot to do with it. But an inline six diesel engine inside of a truck is much bigger than a car engine, but it's actually diesel engines are actually more efficient because of the high compression. The high compression ratio. They're way more efficient. That's why trucks use diesel engines. That's why diesel engines literally drive everything. You know, that's an important thing to understand. So just because it's a bigger engine doesn't necessarily mean it's less efficient. Oh, they vented down, guys. Hold on, let me unmute this.
Yeah. They're testing the directions of them. They just you just saw one of them move. I think.
Yeah, it
Talk
seems
over
like
this.
the comment.
EJ, do you think Elon Musk's rocket is the future for humans? It has the potential to be, Ilya. You got to remember, when the U.S. when Boeing in the United States was designing the 747, right? A lot of people said that's a really stupid idea. You're never going to get your return on investment from that. That's never going to happen. No one needs a double-decker airplane. You know? And then Boeing came through, and Joe Sutter is the name of the chief designer for the 747. He came through, and they literally developed one of the best planes ever made. Literally changed the way we think about airline travel. You guys got to remember, the 747, you know, it set the bar for how an airliner needs to be designed. But the big contribution that the 747 has to the airline industry is something called a high bypass turbofan. In order to achieve the efficiency and range of moving a plane around that big, they needed to drastically increase engine efficiency. So they didn't necessarily make the engines bigger, but they put a drive fan on the front of the engine. That's why they're called turbofans. High bypass turbofans are the industry standard for any airliner nowadays. Doesn't matter if it's a 737, doesn't matter if it's an A320, A330, A340, A350, A360, it does not matter. They all use high bypass turbofans. So, I don't know, Ilya, to be honest with you. I have no idea. Time will tell. Raptor engines certainly... Dude, even if Starship doesn't work, Raptor engines will certainly be an interesting contribution to rocketry. Being the first full flow stage combustion cycle engine to work. That alone in itself, how it's working already, is really, really great capability. Like, a Raptor engine with on a conventional vehicle would be like an expendable rocket. Even a Raptor engine on something like Falcon 9 would be absurd. That would be absurd capability. Yeah, that would be a big deal. You know? So, I don't know. Is Starship the future? I think Starship has the potential to be game-changing, like the DC-3, C-47s were during World War II. So, Ilya, for you, that's called an Li-2. It could be game-changing like that. I think the space shuttle, personally, is the C-47 of aerospace. I think Starship has the potential to be the 707. So the 707 was Boeing's design. It was the first jetliner, and they rolled it out in the late 1950s. It was the first jet airliner, and the 707 changed the entire airline industry. Like, it changed the entire airline industry. Every single passenger liner's configuration is based off of the 707. Meaning, like, you have fans underslung underneath the wings, slightly swept back wing, circular fuselage, right? Every jetliner uses that. That's called convergent design. Not the Comet. The Comet could have been. It could have been. Just like the shuttle could have been the 707. But failures tend to blemish the reputation of a flying vehicle. Did I miss it? Yeah, it's already fired. They're moving stuff around. They vented down Starship, so I think we might be done here, guys. It was first, though. That does not matter at all, Aqualex. Yeah, that means nothing. Who cares? Trimotor was before the C-47. Which one's a better plane? That doesn't matter. It really doesn't. I think de Havilland paved the way for the 707 and the DC-8 and the Convair 880. Absolutely. The lessons learned from that were definitely implemented and taken into account. But the 707 is the one that revolutionized the industry. The Comet was good, but those damn square windows doomed it. Doomed it to the annals of history. NSF thinks they're done and only Booster 9 is rolling out. They vented down Starship, Lou. We're done here. There's a funny 707 with a huge nose. I've seen that, Sherman. The electronic warfare one. It's very strange looking. I still think a 21st century shuttle is the way forward for low Earth orbit operations. Rocket seems like we're going backwards from Apollo. Use Falcon 9 and Artemis for the larger, heavier loads. I agree, Uncapping. I think the future commercial low Earth orbit market could do with something like the space shuttle. It's interesting because we sacrificed the space shuttle to get this commercial market, or at least that was the idea. You're never going to get a return on investment with a 747. Buck, seriously, Boeing sank $2 billion in 1960s money on the 747. $2 billion. Go look at an inflation... Buck, not you. I know you know. Look at an inflation calculator. See what $2 billion is in today's money. You'll go... They literally staked the entire company on the 747 succeeding, and that paid off. Yeah, Samcar, it's interesting how history is cyclical, right? Like that, right? We always say it doesn't repeat, it rhymes. I know you know this, but the shuttle could have easily maintained the commercial market 30 years earlier. It was supposed to. They pulled the shuttle. RJ, the shuttle was launching commercial missions, and the demand for commercial satellites was growing. They stopped doing commercial missions with the shuttle in 1986 because of Challenger. The idea was that these commercial rideshare missions would offset the huge cost of development for the shuttle program and make the shuttle less expensive, and also make it fly more. Oops. $2 billion in 1965 is $18 billion today. Short line, yeah, they literally leveraged the entire company. $18 billion? Who has $18 billion floating? Don't answer that. Why do they have the grid fins laid out in an X pattern when looking from above on Super Heavy instead of a pattern like on Falcon 9? Jim, that's a super good question. The grid fins are like, you're talking about why they're like this as opposed to being like 90 degrees off of each other. The reason why is to give better pitching moment for Super Heavy. Basically, the grid fins being more in line with the axis to pitch the back end of the vehicle up, give the booster more what's called cross-range capability. Literally flying Super Heavy. Literally flying it. That's the idea. Those chines that are on the bottom of the boosters are... Actually, here, let me show you with paint. So, if you look at Super Heavy from the bottom, right, you have all your, your rocket engines in here, and then you have loops of rocket engines like that, right? if you look at the bottom, there are these things that are shaped like this. Right? They're shaped like that. Those are called chines, I think is what SpaceX calls them. So those guys right there, coupled with the grid fins being like this, right, will literally make it so when Super Heavy is flying, the chines on either side of the vehicle will generate a ton of lift. They'll generate body lift down here. See that? So grid fins being like this, right? They'll generate lift. Super Heavy is literally going to fly. Badly, but it's going to fly. It'll fly about as good as a plane with no wings. But the chines right here still will give a little bit of lift because high pressure is going to build up right here and right here. And that will generate lift. So between, they moved them like this so they could get more pitching moment to get that nose more, and I say the nose, I mean the back end of the vehicle, up in the air when it's coming back down. Think about it like a squirrel suit for a skydiver. Same idea. It's like a squirrel suit for a skydiver. That's what it does. That's why they did that. See the chines right there? That's what they're supposed to do. Does that make sense, Jim? Is the concept of an orbital structure like Halo really feasible? Like from the orbital mechanics point of view? Sure, nearly. But an object that big is going to perturb orbits of things. Yeah, of course. Why not? Something that big, though, is going to have gravitational pull. You'd have to make it out of some really strong Forerunner material to get the ring from keep the ring from wanting to collapse in on itself. Because with the amount of mass and size that you're talking about with Halo, so if we took like Installation 04, for instance. Greetings, I am 343 Guilty Spark. I am the monitor of Installation 04. Pleasure to meet you, Reclaimer. If you take like a mass that big, the ring is literally going to want to collapse in on itself. Because gravity. It's going to create gravitational pull and the ring will want to collapse in. So it will literally be a compression force. A Halo structurally is going to have to be made like a submarine hull. If we were going to make something like that, you'd need to make it implosion proof because it'll constantly want to just collapse into a ball. There's no naturally occurring ring installation like that we know of. I mean, there might be, who knows? But I mean, there's like rings around planets, but that's not. Maybe if you kept the ring spinning, maybe. And I forget in Halo lore if the rings actually spin. If they're spinning while they're orbiting, they might be. I don't know. If they're spinning, then I suppose it wouldn't be that big of a deal. But even then, if you're spinning a structure like that, now you need to build it like an airplane hull because I presume that you're going to need to spin it you're going to need to spin a Halo to be able to combat the inward compression load that's induced from gravity, right? You're going to have to spin the Halo to be able to combat that, like orbiting around a planet, right? Man, that thing will get introduced to all different types of crazy forces. Like, once again, it's possible, sure. Why not? How are we going to get that much mass up there? I don't know. We're going to need a forge. Yeah. Stygian, actually, that's my benchmark, dude. People say, like, why can't we just attach a rocket engine to a planet? Because we're not the Forerunners. That's why. We have not achieved that level of civilizational dexterity. That's my new made-up word for the day. Civilizational. We're not a Type 3 civilization. We can't do stuff like that. Not yet. Could we do it in the future? Sure. If you showed Leonardo da Vinci the space shuttle, he would be like, what is that? Is that the devil? Okay, that's the devil. Burn it! You know, like, that's not to say that we couldn't do something like that. Maybe in the future. I don't know. I'm a Halo lore nutcase, by the way. So, yeah. Yeah. I am 2401 Penitent Tangent. I am the monitor of installation 05. We have much to do, Reclaimer. Can we take a super heavy booster and make it into a wet workshop? It'd be much easier and better to do that with a starship. T-Man, sure. Why not? A nice solid asteroid with really low gravity. Okay. I'm pretty sure in terms of what we were able to send to an asteroid and rendezvous with it, Ox, is about a satellite maybe the size of a golf cart. Got a little ways to go to be able to make a forge. You guys got to remember, in Halo lore, the forge, where the manufacturing facility for making rings, for making the Halo rings, mines out a star for materials and uses the star for power as they go. That's what those Sentinel drones with the lasers are for. They're mining lasers. Yes. Yes, this is Halo lore. I'm a nerd. I get it. So, you remember in Halo 3, when Sergeant Johnson asked the monitor, what are all those Sentinels for? And the monitor says, oh, it's for something else. You know what I'm talking about? They mine the star, and they use the star for power. And that's how they were able to manufacture rings in space like that. I feel like Da Vinci would appreciate the shuttle, be absolutely wowed by it for a bit, and then come up with a revision. Yeah, probably. And if somebody came back in time and showed us how to make Halo rings, we'd probably do the same, right? You ever play Infinite? No, Van, I didn't. No. Might be a stupid question, but do you believe in extraterrestrial intelligence? Yeah, Chaos. The universe is too big. There's something else sentient out there, but the likelihood of us finding it is very, very low. That's like trying to find a certain grain of sand in the ocean. There's a lot of grains of sand to go through before you find the right one. We need to find a way to traverse the universe better. Anybody got any good ideas for warp drive? If you do, just send NASA an email, please. Thoughts on Toyota's new electric truck? I haven't seen it, Novus. Yes, they spin, but the problem is tension. Yeah, exactly, Aqualex. If they're spinning the Halo rings... the problem isn't compression. Now you're dealing with a tensional load. A toroidal tension load. Because it's a ring. Interesting thing. Halo rings matter-based structure is only about 10% of its structure. The majority of it is Harlite spokes and other projected structures like the light bridge in the early in the first game. This cave is not a natural formation. Someone built it, so it must lead somewhere. By NASA, though. Just do it yourself. Sure. I mean, fellas, you know what's funny? NASA does have a section somewhere. I don't know which facility is at, but I know NASA has a section that is focused on trying to figure out non-chemical rocket propulsion. So, or I'll say non-conventional, like unconventional propulsion. So like warp drives and some type of hyperspace drive. They have been trying to figure out, NASA does have a small office to try and figure that stuff out. They absolutely do. You can go look this up. They absolutely do. It just doesn't get very much money because I don't think we need to develop warp drive when we can't even find a reliable enough way to launch into space every day. You know what I mean? We need a Zephyrin Cochrane moment or the Expanse, an Epstein moment like that. Definitely not. No, we don't want the warp. Buck from 40K. We don't. Yeah, you don't want that. That's some Event Horizon stuff. We don't want that. The question is the kind of Star Trek warp drive or the Warhammer 40K. Yes, it's Satan's. We don't. You do not want the 40K warp drive. Yeah, you don't want that. I know that universe too because I'm a nerd. Yeah, you don't want that. Nor do I want flying Gothic churches around in space. I mean, those don't look very aesthetic to me. I will say this about extraterrestrial life, Chaos Slayer. if we do find extraterrestrial life, I want to be the ones finding the terrestrial life and not the ones being discovered. I want Starship Troopers, not Independence Day. You know what I'm saying? If I have to choose. I mean, ideally, it would be like discovering the Vulcans from Star Trek. Like, hopefully it's a peaceful exchange, but more likely than not, it's probably not going to be. And that probably is because of us, because we're weird like that, and we don't like things we don't like change. Humans just generally don't like that. So yeah, if we're gonna be discovering somebody, I hope it's us. If we're gonna discover or encounter another extraterrestrial species that's sentient, I want to be the one doing the discovering, not the ones being discovered. Does that make sense? Yeah, something like that, TJ. Mm-hmm. What about the Protoss? My life for ire. I long for combat. Start by getting yourself a telescope. I have a telescope, Jim. Matrix, I think the testing is over for today, guys. Yeah, they're just moving the booster around. What about the Avatar scenario? Isn't the most probable taking in humanity's greed into account? Yeah, that's what I mean. I want to be the one doing discovering, not vice versa. It looks like they're taking this opportunity for the road closure to move Booster 9 to the pad, which is interesting. This is getting out of hand. Now there are a bunch of them. Yeah, the Advanced Propulsion and Physics Laboratory. There you go. Yeah, Jason, Sophia. It's got an infrared telescope built into the back. Ooh. Tiles on the chines. Interesting. That huge thing is just the first stage. Yeah, Maitland, yeah. Starship is on another level. Seriously, the thing is gigantic. It is absolutely absurdly big. Yeah, that's the gas cap. Yeah, okay. That's a Starlink dish? Oh, even better. You're a Starlink antenna. Roasted. Cool, good to know. Yeah, that's not tiles. Not tiles, it's a Starlink antenna. A Starlink antenna on Booster 9. Think this one's gonna fly? New SpaceX tweet from above, huh? They used to be on the top of the HPU cover, but as they're no longer on the vehicles, they moved it up there. Got it. Ship 24 completes a single engine static fire test in Sturbase, Texas. So the guys on NSF, please get that off my screen. The guys on NSF were right. It was a single engine fire. Let's check this out. As per always, we're looking at, this is footage of a rocket test firing. So headphone users, I'm turning it up. Headphone users, you have 5 seconds to comply. Stop or there will be trouble. Okay, I'm going with it. Okay, that wasn't too bad. Yep. Yeah, that second honk is just the reverb. Got it. That's as loud as I can go. It's pretty Yeah, there's something interestingly hypnotic about that. Can I watch it again? Just wanna... You ever stared at it? Marveled at its beauty? Will Super Heavy be as bright as SLS? Yep. Alright. Yeah, it's a hydraulic hammer. Okay. This is what NASA needs to be doing, the camera work. Stop. Hammer time. Halt. Hammer sight. You're last. Okay. Do we know what happened to the engine test the other day when it cut off early? I've heard nothing yet, Zim. I think they may have shut it down because a tornado came through that area like a little bit after that. So I think that may have had something to do with it. Could have been the engine malfunctioning. There's a bunch of things that it could have been, dude. I don't know. We're gonna have to wait for NASA. Anyway, guys, we'll go.